Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. I am Olakunle Kasumo. Today we'll be taking you along with us on a book club experience with some very bright Nigerian children. We'll also be introducing to you the 3 books shortlisted for the 2016 Etisalat Prize for Literature. And finally, we'll be announcing those who won our free copies of The Code, a book we recently reviewed on this show. So, let's get started with the book club experience.
Are we good to go? Good to go. Good to go. Good to go.
We tend to underestimate children, don't we? Well, they are smarter than we often imagine, and they have immense capacity to learn and absorb. You'll probably realize that more than any other time when you attend a children's book club like this one. For these young book club members, it's simply a time and a place to nurture a book culture, read, talk about their reading experiences, and in this case, meet one of their new favorite authors.
It's a root crop. It's like yam. You harvest it the way you harvest yam, but it's much smaller. That's what cocoa.
She's Obiageli Nani, banker during daytime, writer of children's literature at night, and author of this book titled Mama Chacha's Garden, which is about the story of a poor old woman somewhere in the heart of Africa. Few things gladden the hearts of writers more than the opportunity to read from their books, especially when the audience consists of beautiful young children.
I'm reading from the first page of my book, Mama Chacha's Garden. Somewhere in the heart of Africa was a garden that belonged to an old poor woman known as Mama Chacha. The garden had growing in it cocoyam, cassava, plantain, banana, pumpkin, tomato, pepper, water leaf, and so many other leaves. All the plants in Mama Chacha's garden were beautiful because she, though old and poor, loved her garden and took great care of it because the garden was all she had. Mama Chacha could hardly afford to buy anything from the market, so she was left with eating from the plants, fruits, and leaves of her own garden. Mama Chacha was very familiar with all the species of plants and small animal creatures in her garden. But what she was not aware of was that there were some other smaller creatures, which eyes could hardly see, living in her garden. Unknown to Mama Chacha or any other person, these creatures had their own world in the garden. The harmattan came with its cold wind and promise of urban beauty, and Mama Chacha took ill as a result of cold. Her sister Ellen, who was a trader, came to assist and take care of her. Unlike Mama Chacha, she did not have a garden where she lived, so she did not know how to really take care of one or care for anything like that. Poor Mama Chacha. She had no choice but to make do with her sister, as she was weak from the cold. While Mama Chacha would water her garden with great care, sprinkling the water with her fingers, with her hands, until all the plants would shine and really come alive. It seems the plants and creatures in the garden enjoyed this. Ellen could not tend the garden with such extra care. The plants were not looking as green and as fresh as they used to. Little did Ellen or Mama Chacha know that the most affected were not the plants and visible creatures in the garden, but the smaller creatures which they did not know existed in the garden.
So,
The children have questions for their guest author.
Was Mama Chacha really a farmer?
Mama Chacha is not really a farmer. She just has a garden because she's poor. She can't really afford to buy food outside, and she has the idea about farming. So she just, you know what a garden is, right? It's not as big as a farm, but you have crops there. So you can call her a farmer, but not what would I call it? A major farmer. She just tends her garden.
My question is, what is your message to the readers?
My message to the readers is learn to have empathy. Learn to persevere. Empathy led Buggy. He's not related to the queen, but he knew the loss of that child meant so much to her. Gag, on the other hand, had already given up and seen it as a lost cause. But Buggy knew it would really hurt the queen if the princess was not found. And so even though he could have equally behaved the way Gag did, he made it a mission to help the queen be reunited to her daughter. You understand? That is empathy. Empathy is you try to put yourself in someone's shoe. Then perseverance. He was scared, naturally. He was going to an unknown terrain. He didn't know anything about the other people. He had heard so many terrible things about them. But he plucked up courage and went ahead to find the princess. And of course, he dispelled the rumor that had been existing for whatever years the Kishis and the Pixies had existed. And in the same process, he brought unity. So my message is empathy, perseverance, and being determined.
The children have learned new words and lots of lessons from Mama Chacha's garden.
Species.
Species.
Hamatan.
Hamatan.
Afford.
You learned afford. What does afford mean?
Afford means when you have enough money to buy what you want.
Yes.
That's the correct
That's
answer.
the correct
Everybody
answer.
clap for Miss Cheryl.
That's what afford means.
Yeah.
I learned that you should be brave no matter what. When we say verifying of information, you should find out what happened before you conclude. And sometimes we might be wrong. So it's not good to conclude without finding out what happened. Even though we're in trouble, we should come together, speak to each other, and be united.
Hello, everybody. Hello, have we had a good time reviewing Mama Chacha's garden? Yes, Miss. So
The children also take out time to read from Mama Chacha's garden.
They shouldn't have played a trick on the queen, but it was too late to change that. How would they ever get back home? They wondered, but that thought soon flew out of their mind as they were running and screaming in fright. From the underground came several glows of lightning looking like monsters' eyes. They were fire glows, but Sheriff and Demny didn't know this. They ran screaming as the light seemed to be chasing them. They ran and screamed harder, for the lights were advancing on them. Soon they were tired and there seemed to be nowhere to run again. And so they heard each other screaming with their eyes closed as lights caught up on them. If they could come out of this alive, if there was monster could eat them, they would never play a trick on anyone again.